So for quite some time now, I've been posting things about our parents and trauma when we were children, and things that we've seen, things that, we've gone through, and how our parents really reflect who we are as people. To take it a step further, and I don't want it to ever seem like I'm trying to sit in the seat of blame of our parents, because after a certain amount of time, we as adults should begin to realize that we want a different life and to kind of do something different from what it is that we were taught. And on the other note, I am a parent, so I've made plenty of mistakes. Mistakes that I've made on the real fact of just being a parent, not having a rule book, and going by what other people have taught me, and and some things I didn't want to do that other people taught me. And so I began what we would kind of laugh and say is begin to screw up my kids from a different perspective, so to speak. And each generation is, until we learn to get better about what it is that we do, and we learn to perfect our parenting skills. And this is why it's so great for me as being a grandmother, because I'm able to see all the things that I did incorrectly with my children, and being able to talk with my children and say, well, maybe not really telling them how to parent, but then again, in another note, really telling them that they really should be doing something different. Don't do what I did for you, do something totally different. What I've come to really realize is that we hold within us our parents' beliefs, their likes, their dislikes. We are mini me's of them. And even though a lot of times we want to be so far away from our parents and who they are, as we get older, we go, oh Lord, we're turning to our parents, but we've really done nothing more to take a different path of parenting than our parents did. And so, which kinds of, brings me here today, when I really want us to really think about who we are as people, and had our parents done something a little bit different, we would be totally different people. So let's say I'm a parent and I don't like Brussels sprouts. So I don't make my kids Brussels sprouts. They grow up not liking Brussels sprouts because I don't like Brussels sprouts. I believe in, teach my children Christianity. They grow up and they learn the Christian ways and they become Christians. And don't get me wrong, there's certain things, certain practices that we should teach our children, but then there are certain things too that we should not shape and mold their minds to only believe what it is that we believe. I think what we should do is, even though I don't really care for Brussels sprouts, I'm going to make Brussels sprouts. So that way you can see if you like them or not. And if you don't, then, maybe if we sprinkle some cheese on them, maybe we do something different with them, for myself, so that I can even come into a different way of being. And I say that because when I was younger, there were a lot of foods that I didn't like. I didn't like them as a child. Then once I experienced them as an adult, I realized that it wasn't me who didn't like them. It was my mother, because she didn't cook them, or I heard her say that she didn't like them. So what happens is now I don't like them. And we have to give our children a world of being able to taste and to sample different things, and not just food, just in life. We ourselves, we are so predictable when it comes to religion. And I pride myself on not being a religious person, to be more of a spirit and study the things of spirituality, which is studying the spirit, and trying to become more like the spirit. Then have these religious, views and opinions and different, rhetoric and traditions and rituals on that particular scale of it, that I miss the whole mark and miss actually loving people and giving to people and things of that nature. And so I I implore us as parents, as grandparents, of people who don't even have children but are able to be in a position of parenting a child, is to help them to explore their minds and to not impress your ideals upon them, but ask them what they think. Children are very smart. They are very smart. They already know what they like, what they don't like. If you just allow them to and don't impress your ideas and things of that nature upon them, they already have their views. They already they came into this world that way. And what we should do is not, try to change them, but try to mold who they are, and realize, well, she seems like she loves to help people. She's always talking about, even as a child, certain things that you do. Your child is going to be an advocate. They're going to be a nurse, a doctor. You already know that just by what it is that they're doing. They're going to be a great speaker because they line up all their dolls. They stand up and they they speak to all their dolls, whatever the case may be. Encourage that, see that within them. Don't try and make them, just because you're a doctor, but yet and still they want to be a teacher, don't try and turn them into being a doctor. That's not why they came into the world. And what we end up doing is we have children that end up resenting us for whatever reasons. But then also, to talk about, with our children too, a lot of things that we do sometimes too is because when there's one parent that's absent, we tend to overdo it or try to make up for that parent when there's really not a need to do that. Being who you are is enough. It really is enough. And sometimes what happens is we either, we got boys, we turn them into our little husbands. They're the man of the house, and that's the worst thing that you can do to a little boy, is try to make him a man of the house when he don't have no money, he can't pay no bills. You're starting something in a sense of this whole mother-son thing that can go to the left really quickly. We look at our boys as they grow older, and they're taught to be the man of the house, and here it is, when you finally do find the man of the house, you're having issues because your son is the man of the house. Don't do that to your son. Or our daughters, where they're the oldest one, we make them, take care of all the little kids, because we say we need them to do whatever, but then also we say, we're trying to put this responsibility on them. Well, don't do that as well, because they didn't ask to bring these kids into the world. Have more sisters and brothers so I can take care of them. We have to really be conscious in the things that we do and the things that we impress upon our children too. Because in that sense, the young lady grows up, I don't want to have any kids, because I had to watch all my sisters and brothers. We as mothers, we are the people who instill the most in our children. So our likes, our dislikes, our proclivities, our faults, our failures. We grew up, we wanted to be this dancer. Now we got to make one of our daughters the dancer, and she's got to go to practice, and she's got to do this, and she ain't even a dancer, and that's not even what she wants to do. We have to really, as parents, begin to change the way that we think. We're not going to force our children to be us. We're not going to make them like the same things that we like, make them believe the same things that we believe, because that says that we are the end all be all, and we really are not. I am not nearly as perfect as y'all think I am. Nah, just kidding. But I'm not perfect in this world. I strive to be a better person on a day-to-day basis. But I've done some things that jacked up my kids. I can look at them and I'll say, well, I think you're like that because I did such and such and such. And they'll look at me, and kids love their parents no matter what, and they could know that I'm telling the truth, but they don't want to admit that, or or in another sense of it, they may not want to admit it because then it seems like there's something wrong with them. And it's not that anything's wrong with them. The teaching that you got, the things that I gave to you were not with full information that I have now at 50, versus what I had at 20, 25, whatever the case may be. And now that I know better, when I see you do certain things, I know what that is. I know that I did, X, Y, and Z, and that's why you're the way that you are, and I'm saying that to you in hopes that you will be able to change that, or to think about that, in whatever way, possible. But, you know, that leads me into another thing of us being able to apologize to our children for things that we've done. It doesn't mean that we are the worst parent on the planet. You know, we just didn't know. When you do learn, when you do know better and you want to do better, you still have to apologize to the people who you've wronged. And that may be your children at some times. And going to your grave and not apologizing to them and making them think that you're this holier than thou person and everything that you said or did was the right thing, you know, and I did my best. Well, we all know that you did your best, but you can also apologize for, you know, sometimes doing your worst, even though you were trying to do your best. And so I just say that, you know, as parents, we have to begin to, you know, look at ourselves and say, okay, you know, I want to rear this child to be, you know, empower them and encourage them to be the best person that they can be on earth. Not just for me, because, you know, you have some children that grow up and move the heck away from their parents and never see them ever again because of the way that they were parented. Then you have some kids, and on that very same note, we're in society have to deal with that child and the difficulties, the traumas, the everything that you kind of instilled in them. And I say this with a whole full heart. Unless you know, your mother was not alive when you were a child, you know, everything that you were taught was taught by your mother, whether she was there or not. And I know this because in quite a bit of my children's lives, I was not a full-time parent. I was not a full-time parent. And so even though, you know, they spent holidays and, you know, summers and things with me, I was not there full time. So how the things that I lacked, the things that I did not do affected them in some way, shape, or form. It did. It had to, you know, and each one of them differently, because each one of them needed something differently from me. So as a mother, you know, standing in the gap now and being able to say, you know, that decision that I made, you know, it probably was not the best decision. I could have done this, or I could have done that, or, you know, in hindsight, looking at that particular thing, I could have done something different. It's all about really looking at yourself, you know, and not wanting to blame anybody else, you know, for the situation, but look at the things that you could have done maybe better. You know, we don't know, we don't really want to get into a thing, oh, well, I'm so sorry for what I did, and then we can't move past that. We still stuck in this guilty state too. We don't want to stay in a, you know, state of guilt. You know, yes, let me apologize to you because I did do the wrong thing, you know, and then that teaches your children, of course, to apologize to their children and anybody else who needs apologizing, you know, for that matter. But as parents, we have to begin to look at ourselves and some of the things that we may do that has affected our children in some way, shape, or form, and take ownership of that. You know, it doesn't mean that we're a bad person. We either just didn't know, and some parents did know and didn't care, you know, but now maybe you do, you know what I'm saying? And now you can look back and you can say, well, you know, I really didn't care. I was a sucky person at that particular time, but now I know better, you know, and now I want to, you know, I can't make it up to you, but I do want to apologize to you for that particular time in your life. And if you need to be the type of parent who goes to counseling with your child, no matter how old your children are, go to counseling with them, you know, have some mediator or some person in there that, you know, can see the situation from everybody's point of view and be able to explain it when you cannot explain it or when you cannot understand it. It is so imperative that we begin to heal our families. It starts with us. I cannot state that enough. It really starts with us. It does. It starts with us. Anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Peace.